Galileo Galilei, the man who defied the universe. A detailed story of a life, a mind, and a revolution in thought during the Renaissance. Chapter 1, A Child Born into Music and Mathematics. Pisa, 1564. Among the cobblestone streets echoing with the melodies of lutes and the debates of scholars, a child was born into the Galilei family. That boy was named Galileo, a name that would one day resonate like the stars he loved and the equations he studied. His father, Vincenzo Galilei, was a talented musician and music theorist, a man who challenged outdated musical conventions through mathematical reasoning. From a young age, Galileo watched his father use logic to question tradition. It planted a seed deep within him. To understand the universe, one must first dare to doubt it. As he grew older, Galileo was sent to the University of Pisa to study medicine, a respectable career path envisioned by his family. But destiny had other plans. He became fascinated by mathematics, especially the geometry of Euclid and the principles of Archimedes. Eventually, he abandoned medicine and devoted himself fully to science, guided by a burning passion for discovery. Chapter 2, Early Defiance and Revolutionary Ideas. By the late 16th century, the prevailing view of the cosmos was that of Aristotle and Ptolemy, a geocentric universe, with Earth at the center and all celestial bodies orbiting in perfect harmony. This wasn't just a scientific model, it was inseparable from Christian theology. Questioning it was considered blasphemous. But Galileo wasn't convinced. With a logical mind and deep love for experimentation, he began to ask questions others didn't dare. Why do objects fall? Do heavier objects truly fall faster than lighter ones? At the University of Pisa, he conducted an experiment that would become legendary. According to tradition, he dropped two spheres of different masses from the Leaning Tower of Pisa and demonstrated that they fell at the same rate. This directly contradicted Aristotle's teachings, which had dominated Western thought for over 2,000 years. Chapter 3, A New Weapon, the Telescope and the Celestial Revolution. In 1609, a small invention from the Netherlands made its way to Galileo, the telescope. In most hands, it was a toy. But in Galileo's, it became a weapon of discovery. He didn't just use it, he improved it, increasing its magnification from 3x to over 20x. And with it, he turned his gaze toward the heavens, in search of truth. What he saw would change the world. When Galileo observed the moon, he didn't see a smooth, perfect sphere. He saw mountains, craters, and rugged terrain, just like Earth. When he looked at Jupiter, he discovered 4 moons orbiting the planet, now known as Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. But perhaps most revolutionary was his observation of the phases of Venus. Galileo noticed that Venus showed full phases, similar to the Moon, something that could only be explained if Venus orbited the Sun, not the Earth. All of these findings were published in 1610 in his seminal work, Sidereus Nuncius, the Starry Messenger, shaking the very foundations of ancient belief. In a single stroke, Galileo had cracked open the heavens and invited mankind to look deeper. Chapter 4, Science, Power, and the Tragedy of a Mind. Galileo's discoveries, while rooted in scientific evidence, deeply threatened the authority of the Catholic Church, which ruled European thought and doctrine. In 1616, the Church officially declared Copernican heliocentrism heretical, forbidding anyone from teaching or defending it. Under pressure, Galileo kept silent, for a while. But the fire of truth inside him refused to fade. Years later, under the papacy of Urban VIII, a former friend, Galileo was given cautious permission to continue his studies, as long as he did not declare heliocentrism as absolute fact. In 1632, he published his most daring work, Dialogue Concerning the Two Chief World Systems. It featured a fictional conversation between three characters: Simplicio, a foolish defender of geocentrism; Salviati, an advocate of heliocentrism; and Segreto, a neutral inquirer. Although presented as neutral, the dialogue clearly favored the heliocentric view. The church was outraged. In 1633, Galileo was summoned before the Roman Inquisition. Accused of heresy, he was forced to recant his beliefs under threat of torture. Though he signed the retraction, legend has it that as he rose from his knees, he whispered, "E per esse move," and yet it moves. Chapter 5, The Final Years and the Light That Never Fades. Galileo spent the rest of his life under house arrest in his villa in Arcetri, near Florence. But even then, his mind was as sharp as ever. Deprived of his telescope and public voice, he turned inward, focusing on mechanics and physics. In 1638, he completed two new sciences, a groundbreaking treatise that laid the foundation for kinematics, the study of motion, and material strength. These very ideas would later be used by Isaac Newton to formulate his laws of motion. Galileo passed away on January 8, 1642, blind but unbowed. Though silenced by the church, his legacy had already taken root, not in power or politics, but in minds that dared to think. Chapter 6, Legacy, From Galileo to the Future of Humanity. More than 350 years later, Galileo remains one of the greatest scientific minds in history. He is remembered as the father of modern astronomy, the pioneer of experimental physics, creator of the scientific method, the intellectual bridge between Copernicus, Newton, and Einstein. Albert Einstein once said, "All knowledge seekers in science are the spiritual descendants of Galileo." And indeed, Galileo was more than a scientist. He was a symbol of intellectual freedom, a man who pushed humanity out of the darkness of dogma and into the light of reason, observation, and discovery.